Welcome back, everybody. My name is Gregtech, and this is Gregtech New Horizons. So when I last left off, I was looking at working on some Project Red, as well as expanding our little storage facility that we had going on. So I'm here to show you guys an update. The storage unit has grown a bit. I've begun organizing the various ores and crushed ore. I haven't done too much else with anything yet. You can still see a bunch of miscellaneous materials down here where I've got them kind of sorted. I do have the drawers locked, and I've been unlocking them, clearing them out, organizing them, relocking them. I've brought over a couple more of the chests full of stuff, so slowly decreasing the number of things that we have sitting over in excuse me, the old base. And then over here I have the drawer controller. Now the only reason I have the drawer controller is because I have been working with Project Red. I have various things set up, trying to automate this guy exporting his stuff into the system as I work with it. Over here is a nice little wrapped request pipe so that stuff doesn't fall down through and into the lower levels and stuff. Just have this right here, and as you can see, we have a bunch of stuff. Excuse me. Again, mainly it is the ores and the crushed ores, but it is coming along nicely. I've updated my task list. I was working on getting blaze reed up in my little breeding farm because I'd like to get to a brewing stand so that I can get the brewing machine so that I can automate polyethylene. Now, I have not automated circuit production yet, but part of that is because I wanted to get polyethylene automated as well, so that I have an easier time doing that. And as you can hear, it is the middle of the day and the birds are making all kinds of noise, talking back and forth to each other. Up here is my breeding area. I have nickelback and argentia that I'm working between. Over here is my stick reed. I have my best one is this guy right here, 1122, although arguably, no, I guess 1136 is better. I forgot I moved that one around. And then this one over here, a 1034. So just trying to keep these guys upgrading and upgrading, get them to those max stats of 23, 31, 10. Over here I have some eggplant, nothing too crazy there. Right here I have blaze reed. That is my blaze reed. I am currently, like I say, working on getting enough blaze rods in order to make the long blaze rods in order to make a brewing stand. Here is my glow flowers. I've been slowly harvesting those guys as they come up, taking them down to an extractor and extracting out the glowstone. And then right here is some wither reed. I'm not really doing a whole lot with those yet. When I am breeding them, I am working on getting, I think it's tear stalks from them. I had a couple of tear stalks pop in right here, but there's no good way for me to breed them. If they had popped into these two corner sides, it would have been great, but no, every time it would pop here into the middle, and it's not easily accessible there. Over here, we have two zom plants. I was, back over in this corner, working on corpse plants, which is how I got the eggplant from the corpse plants. And then I finally got one zom plant, and then I spread it and got two of them, and now I've got them over here. And the entire reason I am working with the zom plants is to get access to the Fertilia plant. The zom plant is the best one for getting access to that. And then lastly over here I have this Garnadinia, which was a new plant added in order to give a steady supply of garnets. I don't have an ore block under it, so it's just sitting here at 2 out of 3. Unfortunately, this is one of those crops that you have to have maxed before you can rebreed it. So I have not touched it other than getting it that high. It was breeding a bunch of weeds because I thought it would work at 2 of 3. Turns out it's a newer crop that only works when it's at max growth. So, and then over here you can see I've got a small cactus, a little bit of rose and dandelion, and these guys are just here so that I can collect the dyes. You already have lapis for blue and bone meal for white. So that gets me the majority of the colors that I needed in order to work with the Project Red setup. Now if I pop open this bag right here, what's left of it, I have 2 of the routed junction pipes, 1 routed interface, a stock keeper, and a crafting chip. And if we jump over to the Project Red, you can see worked away on all of those quests, this one being the important one. Once you have all of these guys, you get a free drawer controller, which is how that all is set up. A small reward just for getting that far with all the chips. And then over here is a way to automate the desulfurization of oil. That'll come at a later time. Right now I'm not concerning myself too much with oil because I do have the benzene setup going. So I'm not terribly worried about oil and diesel and all that, which is why over here in my MV setup, it pretty much peters out right here. I should continue with the biomass and get the biodiesel done here, but I haven't. And then I think that the quest may not be over here. I know you need a mixer for it. Oh, so it's probably, yeah, right here, the diesel fuel, mixing the light and heavy fuel. So I haven't bothered with that quest, haven't bothered with the other quests lately. Mainly, I have been focused on, my friends and I have been building out this nice big base. You can see that main floor is completely filled out now, and we've been slowly building up stuff to automate and get ourselves storage so that we can continue to progress once we have some things being made without us needing to stand around and do it. So there you can see my little stack of glowstone along with my glow flowers. So yeah, a little bit of a base tour there coming right along. My current goals are to continue sorting out these guys while I wait for my blaze rods to grow so that I can automate polyethylene, and then from there I am looking at building out the greenwood floor there. Will continue. This is the ceiling portion of it. You can see the Project Red line running under there. The idea being that if I go down one more floor, I want to put automation down here, and then that way I can just drop these guys down through the roof and do whatever I need to do with automation. And again, looking at polyethylene and LV chip automation to start with. So yeah, lots of fun. Looking forward to playing some more today. We will catch you back here after a bit. Hi, I'm back, and it's been about a day since the last time I recorded. I added my Viz Shrooms up here because I was working on building the parts to make the next level up of wand. On the Thaumaturge page, it's to improve your wand, and then stainless steel screws, and then the Great Wood wand, and then I'm going to need to go kill the Lich King. Before I kill the Lich King, though, I'm going to jump over and I'm going to end up making the coal steam jetpack so that I can then make the copter pack so that I can go after the Lich King the nice easy way, which is to drop in on top of him and whoop the snot out of him without having to deal with all the spawners on the way up. So that is one thing I'm looking forward to doing. I've been working with my plants a bit more. You can see I have Blaze Reed and I have Wither Reed, and I took quite a while to get the Blaze Reed to drop me enough blaze rods. I'm also working with, I'm trying to duplicate this Boxia right here with this stick reed. I've got Argentia next to Nickelback next to Copon. I'm trying to get the metal plants here. I've been trying to breed up these guys. As you can see, here's one of my better ones, 1306, and over here 1057, and right here an 1158. So we have quite a bit of plants. I have Fertilia over here. I finally bred up the Zomplants, got Fertilia, putting the Fertilia over here. I'm really using this now to try and get Venimilia, and spider nip. And then if we run down here, I have something very fun to show you guys. Right over here, this small monstrosity. So someone posted in the Discord channel a workflow for making the polyethylene sheets simply using saplings and sulfur. And so if I come over here, I can pop up here, and you can see this is my workflow. Give me just a sec. Let me quiet down the birds, and then I will see if I can show you guys how I set this mess up. All right, so with this setup, you can see right here I have a brewing machine. And this is where the saplings, or in my case, I'll probably be using something like carrots or reeds or something along those lines, pump into here, and this guy with water converts those things to biomass. It auto outputs it to this distillery, which is set to convert it to ethanol, and the ethanol gets pumped into this guy where I try to can it and send it into this MV chemical reactor here, which combines it with sulfuric acid and then pumps it into here where it gets the ethylene cell itself and mixes with oxygen and then pumps out the polyethylene down here. Now, this item transposer is filtered for cans because the can needs to go back here because it gets used as it goes along. So the ethanol, once I get 1,000 ethanol, moves over to here. With the program circuit of 1, it makes diluted sulfuric acid that gets, as you can see, I've got the fluid auto output on, so it fluid auto outputs to this distillery. And then I have right here on this side a conveyor, which is set to export out of the chemical reactor and into this chemical reactor, and it exports a cell of ethylene. It mixes with the oxygen, and then you get an empty cell when it's set to 1, and 1,500 polyethylene, molten polyethylene, which then goes down into here to be made into sheets and pumped out to the front. The can then needs to come back here so that as it fills up, it can keep doing stuff. That one's a pretty simple one. This is one of the interesting ones. Right here in this distillery, it takes diluted sulfuric acid and converts it into sulfuric acid, which fluid outputs right into here. But this one also fluid outputs into here. So you have to right-click with a wrench and get these things set to import on the, or input allowed on the output face for both of them, so that they can each output. One outputs the sulfuric acid, the other one outputs the diluted sulfuric acid, and makes this a nice little loop without having to use a bunch of pipe or tube or anything like that. It's really handy. Over here on this side, I have an electrolyzer, which I have electrolyzing this can and producing a can of oxygen and 2,000 liters of hydrogen, which then uses this liquid translocator to pump it out into this chemical reactor. The chemical reactor is supposed to take in sulfur and converts it to the hydrogen sulfide, passes it to this fluid canner that then takes it and passes it to this chemical reactor so that it can dilute the hydrogen sulfide into diluted sulfuric acid, which passes it into here. So I have a way of recharging the sulfuric acid since this guy slowly uses up the sulfuric acid in the production of the polyethylene. Now, the interesting part is that here between these two guys, between the fluid canner and this chemical reactor, it gets back out the can. So what I have is I have the fluid canner auto item outputting into the chemical reactor. The chemical reactor then has a conveyor on this side, which is set to export, allow import, or allow input. And then this guy has been right-clicked with a screwdriver to say input allowed on output face. So it can pass the can back and forth between these two guys while setting up this whole setup. And then over here, I have a very similar thing. It takes the can in order to make the can of oxygen, puts the can of oxygen here, which then pumps it out, and then passes the can back in. Again, I have this guy right-clicked with a screwdriver to input allowed on output face, and then this guy has a conveyor sitting right here on this side to put the can back. And it just really helps with the amount of plumbing and piping that you need. It also helps that if I decide to hook this guy up into Project Red like I did last time, I don't need to have a stock keeper on it. I can stick it next to a fluid canner and it'll uncan the oxygen and then give the can right back. And then that way I just have one can that cycles itself back and forth and never needs to be dumped out. It never needs to be emptied. It just immediately works, and I don't need to have the Project Red pipe, extract it from here, put it back in here, or put it back into the system. I can always run with just one can, and it'll just constantly run. Now, it does have a little bit of lag, simply because I have an LV conveyor here, so however fast the LV conveyor will take it out and put it back, that's how fast it'll be. I could put, let's say, just 2 cans in here, and then if I had 2 cans, the second one would start immediately while this one is uncanning and then putting it back. And then I could have it continuously running, producing oxygen and hydrogen. I'm going to look at doing a similar setup on the compressed air in order to keep the number of compressed air cans between the centrifuge and the compressor to that one. I could probably do, say, 6 cans or so, and because it needs 5 for the compressor. Actually, I'll probably do 10 because it needs 5 for the compressor, and it takes about as long as the centrifuge runs for it to do the 5 cans. So if I do 10, it should be able to cycle itself pretty continuously and give me a nice supply of nitrogen. Now, here is one other interesting bit, and I'll be careful of that edge right there. This guy, this chemical reactor, is set to output, and that fluid canner is set to output as well. What happens is the fluid canner outputs and it gets put over here. When this guy outputs, it drops down into here. And fortunately, because this fluid canner is not wrenched to allow input, input will always drop down into here, or this guy's output will always drop down into here. And then because this guy doesn't allow oxygen to go into it, the oxygen comes out and goes straight into the chemical reactor. And so I never have to worry about oxygen ending up in the fluid solidifier or polyethylene ending up in the fluid canner. It just works here between these guys. I think it's a nice, neat little setup. And then I can run this little pipe over here so that all from one face I can slap in saplings, I can slap in sulfur, and then I'll get out polyethylene. And it takes about 20 saplings, or in my case, I think it's 40 carrots, in order to make enough stuff to go through the system to make sheets of polyethylene. And then the sulfur I really only need when I'm running low on the sulfuric acid within this advanced chemical reactor. So I think it's a pretty neat little setup. I certainly enjoyed, well, I didn't really enjoy figuring out how to put it together, but I did like the end result. I can now use micro blocks or something, and I can block this all off and make it look like a nice little input-output type deal just about anywhere. You can see I have a low voltage transformer here, which is taking in really only 1 amp. I've got 4 amps coming through, but it'll only handle 1 amp, and it takes the 1 amp in and spits out the 4 amps that run around. And you can't quite see it, but right back in that back corner there, underneath the MV, oh no, right there, this guy. Underneath the MV chemical reactor is another transformer in step-up mode, taking these 32 the 4 amps of 32 volt power or 32 EU power and up converting it to 1 amp of MV power and then putting that right into this guy. And so that's how I keep this thing running. It does take quite a bit of power, so I did put in a medium lithium battery, but I think it's 13 minutes with how long the basic brewery takes for it to finally get enough ethanol to be able to run this guy once. So I don't have to worry about it chewing a lot of power a lot of the time. But I thought that was a pretty neat little setup and helps me automate polyethylene. I certainly like it more than I like the oil. I don't have to run around and get oil. Right now I am manually supplying that with saplings. The idea being that once I get the farm up and running, I can use carrots from the farm to directly power that thing. So looking forward to doing that. That does conclude the polyethylene. I guess my next step then is to actually set up my rubber and glue and then see about the other air component of getting the nitrogen, and then the last thing is working on circuit automation. And once I get those LV circuits automated, it'll be just a hop, skip, and away from starting to set up more automation, since I can start making extractors and then use the same chips to upgrade into MV chips in order to make stock keepers and crafting chips. And having that nice little thing where I've got a machine with a conveyor on one side next to a machine that outputs cans and can accept the cans back makes this a really handy thing for the air. That'll make it so that I don't need any kind of stock keeper on the air stuff, and it means I won't need a ton of cans in my system because it'll keep the number of cans internal to it. So I think I'll call this video good. Hopefully in the next video I will have that setup done where I'm getting my nitrogen, maybe even completing some of the Ender IO stuff so that I can make the sag mill so that I can automate oxygen production, and then setting up some circuit assembly. And that will be nice, having all three of my current air products automated, and then getting stuff set up and automated so that I can easily create circuits. So we'll see y'all in the next video. Till then.